Well, the search continues for your Seattle Seahawks. They've got a long list of names as potential candidates, people to interview, and one of them is seems to be on everybody's list at this point. We're going to get a closer look at who Johnson is, offensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions, and a man who can enlighten us is with us on the Emerald Queen Casino Sportsbook Hotline. He's the senior writer and insider for DetroitLions.com. Tim Twentyman is with us. Tim, how are you, sir?
Good, Bob, Dave. How you guys doing?
We're good. I would imagine you're getting a lot of questions about Ben Johnson. I don't know if you're doing a lot of interviews, but is there dread out there? Are there people going, "Oh no, we're going to lose our guy"?
No, I think that's a good thing. And yes, you're the third one on the Ben Johnson tour today in terms of radio, but that's good. No, that's good. Look, that's what happens, right? When you turn things around, when you win games, your assistant coaches get some spotlight, and I would certainly rather have that than the alternative of keeping guys who aren't winning you football games. Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn helped this team, do things that haven't been done here in a long time. 12 wins, the first division title in over 30 years, and the playoff win. So kudos to them. They're very well deserving of getting the looks.
Hey, Tim, so is Ben Johnson, is he sort of a departure from Dan Campbell? I mean, is he, how similar, how did that whole relationship come together in the first place? Yeah,
Ben's actually a holdover from the Patricia coaching staff, and Ben identified him as a guy, Dan identified Ben as a guy that was really smart, really, trending upwards. He was the tight ends coach, made him his pass game coordinator, and then made him his offensive coordinator. So you see kind of the line that he's taken. And look, Ben just knows offensive football. It's really fun to watch him put together a scheme. Look what he's done to this Detroit Lions offense. They're top 5 in running and top 5 in passing. That's pretty hard to do. For the last 2 seasons, they've thrown for at least 4,000 yards and rushed for 2,000 yards. First time that's ever happened in franchise history. And so it coincides with Ben Johnson being the offensive coordinator. So, look, Dan's an offensive mind. He comes from New Orleans, right, and the Sean Payton tree. And so he brought a lot of offensive ideas to the table. But really, Ben and Jared Goff created this thing. And I think if you're a franchise, looking at Ben Johnson, what you're going to get is one of the best creative minds in the league offensively.
Well, and you guys are also fifth in scoring as well, which is the ultimate number there. So, I mean, yeah. It's a fun team to watch from the outside, just offensively. It reminds me, I'm not saying that's exactly the same, but reminds me of the greatest show on turf with the Rams back in 2000 and 1999, where at times it looks like you almost have an extra player running around out there. It's just, it's a fun offense to watch. But in terms of him being a head coach, what's your level of confidence? Obviously, he's an offensive wizard, head coach. You're responsible for everything. He's 36 years old, very young guy. So what's your feeling about him? Do you feel like, this is a guy who's ready to assume a position with that kind of responsibility, or he'd be better served to be a coordinator for another season or two?
Yeah, I think he's ready. And obviously the offensive numbers, the scoring that you talked about, but you talk to any player on offense and the level of respect that he has for how he has made every single one of them better. And that's what players want, right? Players want to come into this league. They want to be coached, and they want to know that there's somebody that's going to make them a better football player. And I think that's the one thing when I talk to all the guys on offense, and I think this will, certainly apply across the entire roster if he gets a head coaching job and his, responsibilities expand. But what he's been able to do with some of these rookies, how they've come in and played, some of these guys who, like a Josh Reynolds, right? A guy who's kind of been around the league, been a good player, a lot, but now he's a key member of this team. He makes huge plays, and he's gotten better at this stage of his career. And that's what players want. And I think that's what Ben Johnson has proven. And I think if you're a franchise looking for a head coach, you just want to see that you have a guy that can develop talent, not only identify it, but then develop it and make guys better. And I think that's what you're getting with Ben Johnson.
So with Jared Goff, I mean, he's the number one pick. Sean McVay takes him to the Super Bowl. They lose, and it kind of fell out of favor with him. How much would he? Do you think Jared Goff? How much credit would he give Ben Johnson as far as his resurrection?
A ton. I think one of the best things Ben Johnson did was when he was named offensive coordinator, Obviously, a guy has his own principles, right? His schemes, kind of what he believes and what he wants to do. But he invited Jared Goff in, and they sat down in the offseason and they built this around Jared Goff in the quarterback position. Jared, what do you do well? What don't you like? What don't you do well? Obviously I have my principles. I want to do these things, but let's stay away from some things you don't do well, and let's really build this around the things that you do well. And so, I give him a lot of credit for that. And Jared Goff would be the first one to speak his praises for what he's been able to do and the numbers that he's been able to put up. And, by doing that too, it allowed Jared to take ownership of the offense, right? And really know the ins and outs. And I think when you talk about those two guys, they can almost finish their sentences when they're talking offensive football and how they see the game. So Jared Goff would give Ben Johnson a ton of credit for the way he's played the last 2 years.